Okay, that was awkward. My shirt was hitting the microphone stand. Okay, hello, my friends. Welcome back for another video. Yes, this is my ASMR channel. I sat down and I was gonna do this in a whisper, but I can tell right away it wasn't a good day for that. My voice, I started recording for about 5 minutes and then my voice just got really sore, or my throat, I don't know. And I'm assuming it's from the weather because it's like -7 outside right now. It's really cold. It came on really quick and it's very, very wintry, which I love. Hence, I brought out all the Christmas stuff. So, I know a lot of you are going to be mad. You're going to be hitting the dislike button. I really don't care. But for those of you who do like soft-spoken, I have a second channel called Scary Curiosity. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing any whispering. It's not ASMR. It's just regular old me. I'm doing true crime over there. And the last video I got up was a very mysterious disappearance of a young German man named Lars Matink. So yeah, if you enjoy my regular voice rather than whispered and you want to go check that channel out or subscribe, it would mean the world. And I'll leave links here and here somewhere. But yeah, I will get back to whispering in the next video. For now, this is going to be soft-spoken. I hope that's okay. And I'm going to tell you a collection of creepy and freaky experiences. So I've had this list for quite a few months, and I completely forget what I had on here, so I'm looking forward to being creeped out as well. Alright, let's get into it. I have 2. Each one is creepy, blood-chilling in its own right. No, in its own unique way. So we are off to a good start. Alright, I was born and raised in the country outside a small northeastern Indiana town. I lived in a house that my great-great-great-great-grandfather and his brothers built, as well as 4 other homes directly around my house, where his brothers and their wives lived back in their time. So, by the time I lived in it as a child, it was well into 100 years old and had been remodeled by my grandma and grandpa in the 1970s. So before we lived there, my maternal grandparents lived there, and my grandpa was diagnosed with idiopathic cystic fibrosis of the lungs way back in the early 1980s. I was born in 1989, and in 1990, he was blessed with receiving the first lung transplant in northern Indiana. That's very cool. At a young age, I had 2 distinct memories of him being home with oxygen tubes in his nose and pulling his oxygen tank around the house to sit in his favorite rocker recliner. He passed away in 1991 from rejection. That's too bad. So, the creepy part. Back in 2006, I was pregnant with my first child and near my due date. It was during the day and I was really uncomfortable and my hips and lower back were hurting. So I decided to drive to Mom and Dad's and take a nap in their waterbed, thinking that the heat may help. So I get there, and Mom and I sat in the kitchen, which was off from the living room, to talk for a few minutes. During a lull in conversation, I distinctly hear a squeak, squeak, like squeaky tires. I kind of nonchalantly look around to see where the noise could be coming from. I don't see anything. I glance at my mom, and she's looking around too. Right as I'm about to ask my mom if she hears what I'm hearing, I see from the corner of my eye a figure walk past the entryway to the kitchen and then walking into the living room. Since I was already looking at Mom, hence why I saw it out of the corner of my eye, I could see that she definitely saw something as well, as her eyes got that deer in the headlight look, and her face had gone pale. She looked at me and put her finger over her closed mouth, like, shh, and we both stood up quietly and walked into the kitchen, living room, hallway entry, and we looked into the living room. In the room, the rocker recliner that Mom had was rocking back and forth like someone was sitting in it and rocking. I looked back at Mom with a, "Are you effing seeing this?" expression. Just in time to see Mom's hands fly up to her open mouth, I snap my head back around and plainly see my dead, for this time 15 plus years, grandfather sitting in the chair, rocking for about 2 rocks. I quickly glance back at Mom to make sure that she's seeing this too, and look back, and he was gone, and the chair was completely still. Legit, the freakiest thing that has ever happened to me. I wasn't scared. I was just in disbelief. So glad that my mom was there, or I would have thought that I had gone insane. I 100% believe that. I'm a big believer in residual energy hauntings. And I think that was probably what that was. And I would love to see something like that, but at the same time, I would also be very, very freaked out. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I would, if it was a loved one, I would actually probably find that very comforting. But story number 2 is completely different. So, lived in the same house, except this time I was around 8 or 9, and me and my sister's rooms were upstairs in our house, and my parents' room was downstairs. This particular night, I was sick, and my parents let me sleep on the couch in the living room. Somewhere around 3 or 4 o'clock a.m., I remember waking up because I had heard someone come in the front door, which opens directly into the living room. I remember opening my eyes to see someone walking through the living room and into the kitchen. And I seemingly fell back asleep for a few minutes, but the next thing I knew, I was woken up to red and blue lights flashing through the house. Then I hear my mom and dad's hushed whispers and my dad arguing with what sounded like another man. Again, young me just fell back asleep. I come to find out the next morning that apparently a man who was fleeing from the cops had pulled into our driveway and walked into our house. And he was trying to convince my dad to tell the cops that he was his son and that this was his house. Yeah, my dad definitely did not do that, and the guy ended up in jail. Credit for that story goes to Karmar13. And these are Reddit stories, by the way. I've had water on my shirt the whole time. I don't like that. I don't like that one tiny bit. I don't think I told you guys this, but the other night, no, well, it was another night, but it was quite a while ago now, a few weeks at least. Eric and I were on our computers, and it was really late. Like, it's almost 1 a.m, I believe, or it's early. We're doing our thing, and there is a knock on our front door. And that was weird, bizarre enough for us because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. But it was even weirder for us because nobody ever knocks on our front door. Like, never. And I'm over here, somebody who constantly researches and talks about true crime. I'm like, nope, don't answer the door. We're not doing that. We're going to ignore it. And Eric's like, no, I'm going to go answer the door. And I went and I grabbed the baseball bat. And I was just listening, like getting ready to call the police or something. So I'm like, who's knocking on our door this late? And it turned out to just be some young guy. Like, I don't know, he was young. Maybe like 18, 19 years old or something. And he was really drunk. And his phone had died. And he didn't know where he was going. He was trying to find his friend's house. He was trying to go to a party or something like that at his friend's house. And he had the directions and the address on his phone, but his phone had died. And our street, our area is very, very dark. And he saw that our lights are on. Like, we were the only house with lights on, and he really didn't have any other option but to come and ask for help. So Eric was so sweet. He went and printed him directions and a map from the computer and gave it to him, and then tried to help him get to where he needed to go. So, like, I'm glad that he came. This poor kid was probably panicking a little bit, but it's just funny. Like, I don't like when people knock on the door. But yeah. Okay. So, a girl I know is friends with another girl. The second girl came from school. She lived in an apartment, and her parents were out working. She went into the kitchen, ate something, and then went into her room to do some homework. Her bed was positioned sideways along the wall, the long side of the bed against the wall, and her wardrobe was a full-length mirror that faced the other side of the bed. She stood in front of the mirror and looked at it when she saw an arm underneath her bed. She immediately walked slowly, not running, to the bathroom, locked herself in, and called her mother. Police came and voila, got the guy who was still under her bed. Turned out to be a serial R-word. Oh my God. Credit for that is Flodden PRG. That is so scary. I can't even imagine how many times that has happened. Like, that is terrifying. Good for her though, for walking slowly, like keeping her cool, not to alarm the person. Anyway, moving on. We had a break-in in the home that I lived in as a child. I was about 5 or so, and I used to come home from school and I would be alone as my sister was at school and my parents were still at work. The house was at the bottom of a long driveway too, with a big yard and a huge bush with a river behind it, so it was pretty isolated. One day, I came home from school, down the driveway as usual, went to unlock the gate, and I noticed that our front door was broken, but the gate wasn't. As I said, I was only 5, so I wasn't very smart. I proceeded to open the gate to go in, and as I entered, I heard someone or a few someones running out the back door. I went into the home and saw that the burglars had broken in through a back window and they had taken everything. Point of the story is that they were still in the house when I arrived, and when they heard the front gate opening, they fled out the back, as they probably thought that it was my dad, who is a police officer. Had they known it was just a 5-year-old kid, who knows what would have happened. It makes my blood run cold just thinking about it. Yikes. Okay, so this next one is in response to the previous one. And they say, when I was 26 and 6 months pregnant, I went to my dad's house to pick up his mail. My dad was working overseas, but my older and more irresponsible brother was still living there. I had noticed his car was gone, so when I entered the house and I heard movement in his room upstairs, I thought that it was his girlfriend. As I was rummaging through the mail, I noticed that the movement upstairs had stopped, and I heard the floorboards creaking as if someone was trying not to be noticed. Something told me to hide, so I ran down the hall to my dad's room, and I saw that his window was broken and that there was glass all over the floor. As I was realizing this, I heard the stairs creaking, so I ran to my dad's bathroom. From there, I had a clear view down the hall to a wall where the landing from the stairs was, and I could see unfamiliar legs with long black basketball shorts and the bottom of a large red t-shirt standing there, starting to slowly bend as if to quietly peek down the hall into the room to escape back out of the house through the broken window. That sentence. Thankfully, he took a chance and ran out the front door. Luckily enough, I didn't lock the front door behind me as I usually do. I don't know what I would have done if I would have had to confront him. It makes me sick to try to imagine the fear of a child in that same situation. That after that day, I never went back to my dad's house without my husband or my brother there. Credit with an E, not an A. Oh my goodness. These are the perfect stories to listen to before bed. Okay. I saw an alien. No joke. To this day, I still wonder if I was somehow tripping on something that I ate on accident or something. Oh God. I was about 10 years old and I was playing in my room by myself. It was about 11 p.m. and I had a sliding glass door in my room and the blinds were pulled back. Out of nowhere, the automatic spotlight behind my house turned on. I looked to the sliding glass door and a figure started approaching the door. Nope. At first, I thought it was my neighbor who was older than me and about the same height, but as it got closer, I realized that it was something else. I remember it approaching the door slowly. It stopped at the sliding glass door for a few seconds and it just started staring at me. It felt like an eternity passed by. Like, I remember specifically how long it felt when in reality it was probably only a few seconds. I remember it was a dark black. It had a rounded head just like you see in the movies and was about 6 feet tall. 2 arms, 2 legs, really skinny. The thing about it is that it was so close to me, right on the other side of the glass, that there is no way I could have mistaken it for a human. I know what I saw. After a few seconds of staring at me, it just turned to the side and walked away. Long strides. It went out of my view and I immediately ran out of my room and I screamed for my mom. She didn't believe me. I had to sleep in my room that night knowing that I had seen a legit alien a few feet away from me earlier. I'm 23 now, and to this day, I still get chills when I think about it. My eyes always start watering when I think about it too. I know that it was not a dream. I know what I saw. And no one believes me. I believe you. The thing that creeps me out the most was its demeanor. I remember it coming slowly up to me and walking slowly away. That is what scares me the most. Like, there was no rush to it. It was just watching me slowly. I don't really believe in aliens visiting Earth, so it's been hard to cope with. I think what I saw, if it really was an alien, is what some people would call a gray, except it was black. Fuck, I'm not sleeping tonight. Credit dashboard for fire. Yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight either. I recently opened up all of the blinds in the living snow as well as the ones in our bedroom and stuff, so we can see the snow and the lights outside and stuff. And now every time I go in those rooms, I'm going to be imagining like a 6-foot tall alien slowly walking through a backyard. And if I hear Nova barking tonight, I'm going to know she's barking at an alien. I'm starting to wonder if maybe these were too creepy, but I titled the video what I did for a reason, and you clicked on it, so this is your own fault. Okay. When my daughter was about 6 weeks old, I woke up to the inside laundry door banging. Now, my husband often left the laundry window open to avoid condensation when the dryer was on, so I just assumed that it was the wind. But the baby was fussing, so I got up to change her. I had this really bad feeling, but she was so fussy, so after hesitating at the bedroom door, I went out to change her anyways, because I just figured that I was being paranoid. Or maybe a bad dream, or something like that. Anyways, as I step out the door, I hear this really loud bang on a door. I stuck my head around the corner, and sure enough, it was the laundry room door. So, I finish changing my baby, I get her settled into bed again, and I go and I shut the laundry window, and then I got back into bed. When I got up the next morning, I found muddy footprints all over the lounge room carpet, and our Wii and some other stuff was missing. I realized that when I got up, I had disturbed whoever had broken into the house. If I hadn't hesitated at the door the way that I did, I would have run right into them. God knows what might have happened, and I had nightmares for months. Oh my goodness. And this is why I keep a baseball bat near the bed. Oh. Okay, when I was young enough to still be in a crib, my room and my parents' room were mirror images separated by a wall. When I got older, I moved upstairs and the wall was knocked down to make a true master bedroom. My dress clothes were stored in the closet in what had been my previous room. For some reason, every time I used to go in there looking for something, my heart would start racing and I would get really scared for no reason, and then I would run out of there as quickly as I could. When I tried to think and figure out what made me feel this way, I would get this image in my head of being in the dark, staring at the closet, and fire dancing around the room. One time, my mom noticed how anxious I was coming out of her room, and she asked me what was wrong. When I told her, the color ran from her face, and she asked me, "You remember?" I didn't know what she was talking about, so she explained that while I was in the crib, I used to wake my parents up crying just about every single night. I would tell them that there was a man in the closet and he wanted us to leave. After this had been going on for weeks and weeks, she started asking me questions about this man. When she asked me who the man was, I told her, Bill. That freaked her the F out. Before we moved in, the house had belonged to her great uncle, Bill. When he was elderly, he had a live-in assistant who it turns out was actually a burglar who was robbing the houses in the neighborhood. I guess Bill eventually figured it out because he ended up murdering Uncle Bill. After learning the name, my mom said she basically said out loud, Uncle Bill, this is our house now. We live here now, and this is my son, and you are scaring him. She said that we are going to take good care of your house, so please leave us be. After that, I slept through the night with no problem, and that was the last we ever heard of from the man in the closet. That takes me back to my terrifying babysitting closet nightmare. No closet, there was no closet, but the little girl that I used to babysit for, she came out one night after I put her to bed, and she said she couldn't sleep, and when I asked her why, she said because there's a man in my bedroom. And after that night, I never babysat again. So, yeah. When I was around 10 or 11, I think, my friend and I went for a bike ride. We were neighbors and we lived out in the country. We were on a particularly empty road, mostly woods and fields, and not a lot of houses or people were around. A large commercial van, the kind with the large rolling door on the back, if I recall correctly, was parked at the side of the road. My friend and I rode closer, and the driver was out of the van, and he asked us if we wanted some water. We said, no thank you. He told us it was no big deal. He had lots of water in the back of his van. We just said no again. We turned around and we rode our bikes back home. I don't remember even telling my parents about it. Like by the time we got back home, we went into the pool or something and totally forgot about it. I can only imagine why this guy was trying to get two young girls into the back of his van though. It makes me cringe every time I think about it. I'm glad that we were smart enough to know that we needed to get out of there fast. Oh, that's so creepy. Nope, don't like that. I don't think anything like that ever happened to me when I was really young, and if it did, I don't remember. But I had something similar happen to me when I was a teenager. I was in grade 11, so I was probably 16, and my girlfriend and I were walking home from a friend's house, and this car pulled over onto the side of the road, and they wanted us to get in the car with them, and my friend, and I have no problem saying this, my very dumb friend was about to get in the car with these guys. And I just remember pulling her so hard, and I got so mad at her, and I think I made her feel very, very stupid, but I I had to, because she was about to get in the car. Like, what are you doing? Hello? Anyway, when I was a kid, we had a trampoline, which meant we always had friends over playing on it. One night, my mom left to take a friend home. My brother and I were about 10 or 12 at the time, and we were old enough, so we stayed outside playing when she left. Sorry, they were 10 and 12 at the time. We lived in a very dense subdivision, so the trampoline was on the only piece of grass between our back patio and then an alleyway that ran behind the house. It was just getting dark, and a car passed through the alley, and my brother waved emphatically at the driver. I jokingly scolded him, saying, "Stop that, we might get abducted." Then, from the bushes on the other side of the alley, a male voice said, "Yeah, you might get abducted." We bolted faster than I thought humanly possible from the trampoline and into the house. Peeking out the window on the back door, we saw a middle-aged man in the bushes motioning for us to come out. We of course did not, and instead locked all the doors and ran upstairs to my brother's room, and we armed ourselves with a baseball bat, called our mom, and she obviously called the police and sped home. When the police arrived, they didn't find anyone in the bush. Their theory was that the college kids living on the other side of the alley were just playing a prank on us. That's a weird prank. Plus they said it was a middle-aged man, so there was a fence there though, and that man was on our side of the fence and was not college age. Okay, so exactly what I just said. So terrifying that the man had probably been watching us from that bush all evening, and it gives me chills to this day. Oh. Alright, when I was in middle school, a boy used to follow me home a lot. I would tell him to leave me alone, but he would just keep following me. I told my parents, and they said that he probably just had a crush on me. I was called to the school social worker one day, however, and it turns out that the boy had been writing about how much he loved me in his journal that he had left at school by accident. He had love poems about me, descriptions of what I wore every day, and he even had a bracelet that I thought I had lost, which was taped into the journal. But the part that bothers me the most is that he had stolen a few reeds I had in a box in the band room. He said that he had stolen them because they smelled like the chapstick that I wore every day. It still scares me to think that someone was that obsessed with me. I still get anxiety that he is somehow going to find me. Yep, that is really, really freaky, but I'm not going to say too much because clearly they were very young, but it does lead pretty well into the video that I am working on right now for my other channel, for Scary Curiosity. I'm working on a story that involves stalking. It's actually stalking of a celebrity female. So I don't want to give too much away. because it's a big story and I'm pretty proud of it so far. But yeah, if you're interested in stalking situation that ended up with this poor woman being abducted, which is not 100% proven, but it's very obvious she was abducted, and she mysteriously disappeared. So if you're interested in that story, that's going to be up on my other channel sometime next week. I don't know when, whenever I get it done. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you got this far into the video, I know it's not typically what I do, it's not whispered, but as I said in the beginning, I have days when I know I can't whisper, when it's really gonna affect my throat, and that was today, so no whispering. But yeah, the next video will definitely be whispered, but I hope this was sufficient for today's video. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. These were a little bit creepier than usual. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I hope you were creeped out and also a little bit relaxed all at the same time. Okay, I'm gonna go. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.